What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Construction Technology Podcast. That's a fresh name. We just came up with it. I bet you couldn't tell what we talk about. Joined by my co-host Mike from Build Vision, Andrew from Join. What's up, guys? How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's dig into it. We got a full agenda. Okay, so topic one, AI. It's not talked about enough, obviously, in construction. I think we should talk a little bit about it. I think the question that I'm sure people are asking is like, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff. What do we do? What's the next thing I do to be AI? Uh, I mean, I think about this a lot, obviously. Um, Andrew, you recently released your contract review tool. How should the GC sub be thinking about this, or in general, like where does your mind go if you were to try and educate them on this?
I was thinking about this. I don't think it's super different from other business process or technology um, innovation. And I should say, among the three of us, I think I'm the least. I've had the smallest number of AI red pills or blue pills or whatever the pills are, in my diet over the last 6 to 12 months. But it's definitely new technology. There's definitely different things about it, but I struggle to find places where economic output is radically different. And when I ask people like why we're not seeing that, um, I get told that we're doing it wrong. Which is fine. And then when I ask to see like the evidence of like categorically different economic output, like transform something that's truly transformatively different at the basically the money changes hands for, I like struggle to, right? Like at the same time, there are also these like magical tools, right? Like I released that contract like tool. I put that together with Claude Code in an afternoon. Like it was
Yeah.
probably like that greenfield project was probably 5 or 10x. Like my background as a software engineer, it's probably 5 to 10x faster than if I had sat down with organic text to write it with my fingers. Um, like on the one hand, like okay, something very different is happening here, and we have other tools as well. Like we're big believers in Gong. It lets us like record and better understand what's going on across our customer base, like without like all the note taking in between. But I like still struggle to see the like radically different economic output, and so I think there's like a I think there's I think we might disagree on this. There's sort of justified caution in level of investment and understanding this, especially for construction companies. That the like you could spend a lot of money and a lot of time running around on uh, like running around standing up Claude bots. But maybe
Well,
with that, I'll pass it to the two people who have stood up Claude bots.
my personal opinion, I want to get Mike's as well because I know he's going to probably agree with me, and that's what I'm looking for here is agreement. Is I think it has to come from the top. I mean, if you're a GC, if you're a sub, and you're trying to make sense of what to do, I think you actually just need to dive in. You need to dive in. You need to download Claude and at least start there. Because with Claude, you just got to move the slider from Claude to co-work to code. And then with code, just give it a shot. You just give it a shot because I think if you're going to push your team and Andrew, to your point, why aren't we doing X? I think you just have to go in and see for yourself so that you're not just getting an answer to a question where you don't necessarily know the answer, you know the answer. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this, and we have our team like over processing and over leveraging AI as much as possible. Like every employee on our team has unlimited token spend. So that means is they can spend
Oof.
as much money as possible on Claude and OpenAI, assuming there's return on investment with that. And in like the GC, the subcontractor lens, you think like a superintendent has 10 hours a day on a job site. You don't want them spending 5 hours like sharpening the axe or like honing this like dashboard using AI that really doesn't solve an actual problem. So when you're implementing AI or leveraging AI, it's about like where is there actually efficiency that can be gained. If you're a superintendent that wants to be in the job, like that is following mechanical subcontractor trade, you probably want to be in the field, mechanical contractor, making sure they have all the right updated information. So you don't want to be like Claude coding a tool to track, um, something that's not valuable to the outcome of the company. So the way we're thinking about it and the way we're engaging with with other customers is like, like start with the decision that costs you the most time, not the most money, optimize around that time, and then like launch something quickly. So find this balance between like over sharpening the axe and like just launching things on one shotting it. So I think it's a difficult position. And like as a general contractor executive, like you're not on Twitter 24/7 getting the most up to date open claw announcements based on open AI buying open claw, turning off API keys. Like all these chaotic pieces are coming out, and you can rely on construction tech people to answer those questions. But at the end of the day, it's like, how do you actually save time for your team? How do you make more money for your team? And that can be AI. That can also just be basic workflow tools. So you can't boil the ocean out of the gate.
Yeah, agreed. I think we need to bring back tinkerers. We need more tinkerers. Let's go to our first LinkedIn post today. This is from Jim Barrett, who's head of global innovation at Turner. Turner is great. I mean, famously, they signed up to a very expensive OpenAI subscription. Let's see what Jim has to say. It only looks like an AI bubble if you're still stuck in the valley of chatbots. He goes on to say here that he built a tool called AutoRFI.ai, a full stack web platform that, as an experiment, replaces the human in the RFI process entirely with autonomous agents. I think Jim is pretty switched on. He's obviously doing a lot in AI. He's a leader who's probably spinning up Claude Code. Maybe not everyone can do that like Jim, but the thing that AI gives you now is the ability to create software without knowing a lick of coding. My personal opinion is like a CEO probably should spend some time learning about it, but some people may disagree. It's not the best
I
time.
don't know. Like, when have when has it been the wrong answer for leaders to understand the details of the work that like happens inside their organization and the details of the tool? Like, when has ever been wrong? Like, I really strongly agree that like this technology is just so accessible. Like, yeah, it seems like if I was running a construction organization, like Jim's head of global innovation, like yes, fuck yeah, he should have like like his fingers deep into Claude and Gemini and so forth. Like it's so accessible and it's a surprising and unpredictable technology. Like we don't know like both it's changing and we don't understand the ramifications of it yet. So yeah.
Yeah, even if one person is designated as the tinkerer, right? That's like pretty close to the decision maker. Well, because like without that, how do you know? Like, how do you know how fast you should be moving or whether you should be building your own software? You really have to rely on the people selling the software, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
everyone's
I
going to
think
be.
everyone should just ask me personally, is what I think. And like, there's certain software that I think they should buy, some of which we offer commercially, and there's other software that I'm not sure they need to buy. Yeah, it's interesting. So you guys have like pretty broad tinkering across your organizations. It like sometimes to think about this, I try to like think if it wasn't like if the sentence wasn't about AI, if it was about like you remember like no code tools like
Yeah,
10 years
Bubble,
ago.
Zapier, all those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, we've got uh, like a tool that makes it more accessible to solve your own problems with technology. I mean, Excel is another great example, right? Like, hey, we got people building spreadsheets to solve their own problems. Like, what's the right balance of like tinkering for process improvement versus like executing in a role? And um, like the on ramp to having something that like can do a thing seems way shallower with AI in like a really good way. Like it's amazing, like the number of people on our team who have learned to code SQL like by picking up one of our like various data portals and like an AI thing to talk to is amazing. It's amazing how accessible it's made that learning. So that's great. But like, what's the right balance? Like, we don't need 10 people going in, we don't need 100 people going in different directions around different problems, right? Like you don't need 10, like it would be terrible if there were 10 different, I'm making a tool up, like RFI review tools vibe coded on different job sites. Like you guys like worry about like how do you guys coordinate the tinkering inside your orgs?
One of the big shifts that we've like really focused on is this idea that like the IC role of you like writing code, making marketing material, making copy for like outbound or like researching potential ICPs is now all agents. And what that means is employees are now like teachers that grade agents as opposed to the actual student like taking the test. So what that ends up happening is like there's challenges or problems we try to solve, and then a pod can go try to fix that problem. But me as the CEO still like holds like the full vision of the business that we're building, and I need to make sure that those projects are pointing down the right direction. Like for us, an auto RFI tool like is not valuable for the application at this point. So like this wouldn't be something we explore. But anything around this platform that we have and these orchestrations that we can build are kind of fair game, as long as it's driving customer value on the onset, and we're measuring people on that success, which is like a drastic shift of what we're seeing.
We think about it similarly. We do show and tell. Like I think the problem you're describing, Andrew, is dissemination. Like people are tinkering, great. What is the result? The reality, people are working in different parts of the business, and I think they can work pretty independently. Now, if it's like a 2,000 person organization, probably the innovation head comes in. Let's bring in our second LinkedIn post of the day from Victor Muchiri from Build Vision, great company. Maybe Mike, you want to voice over what he's saying here, but ultimately,
Yeah,
like
just to be the glue here too is so what's interesting was like Victor's previous role is he was an engineer in resident at Barton Mallow, a large general contractor in the Midwest. Kind of given that task, Andrew, that you were just talking about with the general contractor, being like who at the general contractor is kind of like the leading, not innovation, but like, hey, are we using technology the right way? So
A lot of
there
respect.
weren't
Yeah.
yeah, there weren't a lot of those roles. He actually like wrote a couple of blog posts about this, and one of the reasons we brought him on is like he's able to like system think across different like applications and different processes in commercial construction. So one of the things that he's really chatting through here is this idea that like there's at Turner at Barton Mallow they have thousands of employees all in these siloed projects that are trying to create efficiencies on their job site. How do you pull that back and standardize that across an organization? And there needs to be a dedicated resource to do that, or someone that's like taking charge on that outcome of like, hey, what's the SOP for when we do X or Y? And the examples that we've seen are like, even outside of AI, pull this out, not talking about AI, but like an SDI policy, a subcontractor default insurance policy. The general contractors that are successful implementing that are the ones that have a very strong SOP around, hey, what projects do we actually want to have our subcontractors, or which subcontractors on which projects we want enrolled in SDI? Because if they enroll in SDI, we create this captive program, it creates this profit center for us. So getting that normalized out across large organizations is very, very complicated. You have to make sure the incentives are aligned. Hey, like if we're, making a percentage point of our SDI policy, can I, as an executive, feed that loop back into the bonus structure of that executive on that project so they're incentivized to roll out the SDI program? It's gonna be the same thing again. Like back to your point, Andrew. It's like it's not rinse and repeating of like what we've done. It's the same exact pieces. Just like now we have AI. If you can tie to monetary value or time savings or project opens or something, how do you get that ROI back to the leaders of those projects or even the PM on the project? If the PM brings a new tool to the project that helps them create a revenue center, can they get a bonus structure around that if they're incentivized by monetary pieces? So it's an interesting web. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like I'm like a tech guy who came to construction, and the degree to which particularly general contractors are like fundamentally people organizations, like has always sort of stunned me. I think this is changing. I think there's a lot more capital being deployed, a lot more self-perform, but the like if you're a large general contractor and you don't have like a whole team, and most that I encounter do, they have all these VPs of ops, they have all the corporate infrastructure to do exactly this, but without the AI words, right? Like there's some substantial investment in like developing these SOPs. I mean, one of the like most interesting and impactful things that we've seen in some of our customer base around AI adoption is being able to interpret these SOPs to make them much more easy to like access and draw information from. I'm a person, I'm in a role, I've got a certain situation going on, what's the Andrew Zukoski contractor way to handle this situation? Like, what am I supposed to do next? Being able to answer those sorts of questions. So, like, yeah, right. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, this seems like a great investment to have. I don't know. It was still the right investment before AI. Like, I don't know.
I'll actually try and like summarize that as like a direct message. You have to have someone who's exploring it, or you do it yourself, because just like when computers came out, if people were saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about this computer thing," I mean, your business runs on computers these days. Your business will have AI, and if you don't, I honestly really do believe you're going to be left behind. So it's just so intimidating because there's just too much stuff. Just download Claude and start and use chat and code and go work and then go from there. Okay, let's go on to the next topic. We are going to talk about Autodesk Construction Cloud. So they rebranded a lot of their individual products to Forma. Let's bring up the next LinkedIn post here. This one is from Matt Hoff. And Andrew, I'm going to let you present this one because I know you're pretty passionate about it.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I thought there were about 600,000 LinkedIn posts. I saw about half of which were from Autodesk employees, and the other half were from people expressing annoyance about like everything being renamed. Right? Like, wasn't this stuff just BIM 360 like in PlanGrid like 3 years ago, sort of thing? And like, I get it, but I think this is actually a really good sign for customers.
Why?
I think it's indicative of how like Autodesk has a vision for bringing together like design and construction, where having a single umbrella for those two things, I think these two activities are going to be much more closely linked as construction moves forward. I mean, our company is all about sort of the rise of design build and like early construction design collaboration, right? I'm talking my book, but I think it's indicative that ACC has matured to the point that it's like a substantial, durable business unit, and aligning it with like, the largest part of Autodesk's business is like an expression of like deep, long-term commitment to the space. And so I think it's a good thing, even though everyone on LinkedIn thinks it's a terrible thing.
I mean, does it really? I wonder if it even matters. I think it's a good signal. If I'm like an Autodesk customer and I'm a GC or a sub, like maybe I'm slightly confused, but what's the takeaway for me that I should ultimately feel? Like I'm probably just like, why rename it? You could have done a lot of things. What's the steel man there, Andrew? Like why do that for them?
Actually, I don't know why you would do that. I feel like it's like indicative of internal reorganization inside of Autodesk that happened over the last 18 months. Like, so what's the
Okay, so you're bullish. You're bullish on the change. Like you think this is sign of
I
good
think it's
things?
good. Like, yeah, I think it's good because it's indicative of ACC growing up inside of Autodesk. They've like folded it into, they built like a real business as a substantial scale business. That's not easy to do. Like, I don't think Autodesk has ever done that before. They've always acquired new businesses, and they acquired many parts and pieces that came together to become ACC, right? Hi, Mike from Building Connected Days.
I was gonna say, yeah, the guy who has been acquired by
Yeah, the guy who was part of that. Why am I telling him how things work? But they built this thing, and like it's real, and now it's a part of like the Forma, I think, holds quite a lot of the AutoCAD derivatives that like serve AEC. It's like it's a 40-year-old titan of industry that powers everything, and like now, I think in a good way, construction is a part of that. Like it's large enough that it can join that without getting lost in the mess. What the name change means, like there are probably other ways to like accomplish that and signal it to the market. And like, yeah, I guess if I'm a customer, like, okay, great, that's great. Autodesk cares about us. Like, what the fuck is a Forma? And if I'm an architect, like, what's the difference between Forma and this other vendor, New Forma, who also like offers us? Is this old Forma? Like, yeah, you got a good point. Yeah, I can't. Like, I don't have a steel name for them.
Mike, as someone who's been a part of the acquisition process, what do you think what do you think this means for somebody who's currently purchasing Autodesk Construction Cloud, now called, is it on this
Forma.
list? Something.
It's Forma.
Forma.
It's
So
all
I think
Forma.
it's two things, and I think they're both internal. The one is you saw the recent layoffs in January across Autodesk. That was the decision to present to the market that old Autodesk, meaning not acquired companies, Autodesk in the 2016 and 2018 period, old Autodesk is taking the lead. And that's really where they've made their bread and butter on the design side. So a design customer or a general contractor is now run by a sales team that ran the design products historically, not the construction cloud products. Yeah. So from that perspective, Forma is historically what Autodesk has sold very, very well. So internally, organizationally, it makes sense. Second, on the other side of this is just from a marketing perspective, having sold Autodesk Construction Cloud Build, having sold BIM 360, having sold PlanGrid altogether, it's very, very chaotic. Now there's one uniformed, hey, we're going to buy Forma like we're going to buy Procore. And you couldn't have said that before. ACC's, it's an acronym. What does ACC mean? It's also a conference for basketball on the East Coast. I think Forma creates that unique brand around the idea that Andrew touched on, that it is this design build platform. So contractors that are very, very heavy in design build are going to lean more into Forma. And I don't know if we were going to chat about this, but you saw this with even like Cleveland Construction just posted that they transitioned from Procore to Autodesk Construction Cloud.
Yeah.
From a cost perspective was kind of the main implication on that post, but it's just an interesting marketing position where now it's Forma. I think it also has to do with competitive pricing against Procore, where now you can bundle tools across Autodesk Forma better than Procore can. So when you go to a customer and say, hey, you can buy Forma, which is design, build, operate, where Procore cannot really offer that across their suite of tools. So as we talk about this like macro perspective of general contractors and subcontractors want less tools, cool, let's go buy Forma. Even if Forma is 95% as good as Procore, does it really matter? That's how I would think about those lines. Yep.
I talked to the Cleveland guys. They're so tech forward. The way they think about this is great. And they're happy customers from what I understand too. I think the question is, like, are we at a point now where between Procore and Forma, it's now about slogging it out on price?
Yes.
Because obviously they're bundling.
It has been, though. It's been like that for 3 years. And the challenge, not even 3 years, 5 years now. The challenge with this is, all right, so you're a general contractor. So any general contractor exec that's sitting here right now listening to this podcast is like, hey, all right, I have Procore deployed on 10 projects. Those project life cycles are 3 to 5 years. So I need an active subscription with Procore for 3 to 5 years. If I want to bring in Forma, all right, the project that breaks ground on February 21st will be on Forma. I'm maintaining 2 subscriptions between Forma and Procore for the life of those projects. You can obviously ramp down your Procore subscriptions, so it might be as high. But as an exec, you're still sitting there like, I'm maintaining 2 instances. So if I have a super that's on this project that's using Procore and now they have to move to Forma, it's a massive transition for that person because you're now using a different tool. So I think this so what that does, and some of the competitive positioning that we took when I was selling Autodesk tools was, hey, we'll just give away build for free if you're a major design customer. And I will just sit there. I'm thinking long term. I have these long agreements with you as a general contractor. Let me go find the projects that you go use build on. So, hey, we're gonna go design in Revit, design in AutoCAD, everything's in BIM 360. Oh, why not just use our RFI tool? Why use Procore's? And it's a very interesting perspective, and I think the Forma rebranding accelerates that, where now everyone's aligned internally at Autodesk inside of the Forma group to sell the design piece with the goal of imprinting the build piece on the back end.
Yeah, that's a lot more. That's a lot more clear. It's a single kind of umbrella term for the counter position to Procore. Well, it's not really counter position. You can now have it in the same conversation without listing out 5 tools.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Very well
And they're all
put.
one. Like Building Connected is now officially in Forma. Not officially all the way on Forge yet, but you're no longer, hey, I'm using Building Connected, I'm using Forma, which is super, super powerful as all these contractors get tech fatigue.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have anything else to really add to this point. Andrew, any other thoughts, or do you want to move on to the next
No,
topic?
Mike, I think you put that much better than I did.
Yeah, no, that was great. I think you've convinced me that that was actually a great move, Mike, which I appreciate. All right, let's go on to the next topic. So, GCs as a service business. Mike's very opinionated about this. Um, Mike, why don't you take it from here and what your kind of core thesis is, and then let's talk about
Yeah.
what we think is actually going to happen.
Yeah. So again, zooming on the macro scale, both general contractors have historically seen a reduction in CM fee. One really large example of this was, I mean, this was 20 years ago, but Hunter Roberts, a New York City general contractor, was founded on a weekend from Turner executives that left on a Friday. They were able to start a general contractor because of the insurance policies that were available to them, because of the relationships they had. They could go raise a $1 billion insurance policy to go bid on projects. So what that meant was there isn't really as much of a moat around general contractors internally offering just, hey, CM services, meaning, hey, we can go build your project for better, because your top brass, your most successful project executives can easily leave your large organization and start a new business. So with that trend, we've started to see a CM fee reduction. So no longer do a general contractor make a 3% fee on a $1 billion project. It's probably closer to 0.5%. And with that, general contractors have started to get smart about, hey, where else can we produce value to our customers, being the owner? And what really raised the flag for me was Turner's new company that they just founded called First Equipment, where Turner now rents equipment for job sites. So if you think about this from Turner's perspective, say Turner is on a $500 million project and they're competing against another general contractor. Turner can go, hey, we'll build a project for you almost at cost for us. So reducing that CM fee to zero. But we're going to offer these additional services on top of that. Those services are a CSIP policy, an STI policy, Turner Logistics / Source Blue. Source Blue is the mechanical electrical equipment purchasing arm, where they go buy source mechanical electrical equipment and other materials, and then charge a fee to that service to the owner. They can start offering equipment rentals. They're doing self-perform. They're also doing off-site manufacturing. And what that does is, if you actually look at the EBITDA percentages of those businesses, those other businesses, it's a lot higher. So let's say you go on a $500 million project, you go buy $50 million worth of equipment, and you charge the owner 10%. So you make $5 million in rev on that. That 1% fee that you charge for that $500 million was $5 million in rev. But the EBITDA, so it's the same revenue numbers, but the earnings on that are drastically different. On the Source Bloom number, you're probably earning 70% profit. And on the CM fee, you're probably earning 10 to 15% profit. So your services division is 3 to 5 times more profitable than your CM group. What that means is there's going to be fee erosion on the CM side, because you can offer these additional services, and the contractors that offers additional services will be the most profitable in the business.
So it's a loss leader to plug in your services arm. But
Correct.
what do you think is ultimately going to happen? People at Turner, I'm assuming, aren't leaving every weekend to go start a new general contracting business. But I think you're basically saying now that they have an incentive to spin up additional service, you're saying it's not defensible to have a general contracting business, is what you're saying. And ultimately,
Correct.
you should add value-added services to increase your net profit.
Correct. And you can pay your employees a lot higher than market rate because of it. Because you're not relying just the CM fee to pay for your superintendent on a job site. You can actually have these other fees engines, so you can pay your employees more, which keeps your employees at the company longer.
How does this like work? Like at the end of the day, if I'm the owner, like the owner pays for everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's labor that happens on site, and there are materials that end up assembled on site, right?
Yeah.
And then there's soft costs and oversight that happens on top of that, and profit that goes to all sorts of different people. But like I pay for everything. Like in this world of like expanding service lines, is the like how do owners get comfortable with that? Like
It's cheap. It's
I
cheaper
gotta
for an owner.
imagine like it's very difficult to walk in and say like, can you tell me how much money you're making from this job? Like I see your CM fee is 0. Like what are all the ways? How are you making money? Like it's like let alone it's just gonna be hard to answer that when you have all these different operating entities.
So it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's actually cheaper for the owner because it creates a more competitive environment. So if you think about each one of those avenues that you're talking through, insurance, can a larger corporation get a better insurance policy rates? That's a pretty common yes. Can a general contractor that's purchasing directly from reps, leveraging their buying power to get better pricing on commodities, materials, equipment? That's usually generally a yes. So the pitch to owners is the price point is lower usually, or at least the risk is lower, because you can almost position this as like, hey, we're going to charge a premium on all these different services, but your building is going to be guaranteed to open on this date, and we'll absorb, like we kind of chatted through this last week, but absorb the liquidated damages clause.
Consistency is like you get if you like control like key trades and like key pieces of supply chain, like there should just be much more consistency in the delivery. Correct. That makes a ton of sense. The like pricing one, I don't know. Like, yeah, that general contractor aggregates buying power, maybe to my benefit, but like one of the big advantages of the fragmented nature is pricing power at each point of subcontracting, right? Like you're able to use the market to drive the price down. And like I was talking to Elaine Waha like years ago. He came from automotive and he's in the UK, and he spent a lot of time on the UK had this initiative to standardize, I think it was schools around like a kit of parts approach, and where it's going to be manufactured offsite and assembled on site, and they just couldn't be price competitive because they had sole sourced every part of their supply chain. Like they had to buy from whoever. Like if Turner can only source from Turner First Equipment, like there's probably edge in some markets on some projects for other people who happen to have some equipment idle, like that they're willing to rent out at cost and not like charge a margin on, and you forego that to the degree to which you engage with like an integrated supplier. So I don't know.
So
pricing control makes a lot of sense.
I would say that we are going closer to the age of a Rockefeller Standard Oil than away from it. And the Rockefeller position, what he did was he pretty much commoditized the shipment of oil so that his competitors couldn't compete. Because you need to be able to move oil, right? Like that, like that was the main value prop. So say it historically costs $3 a barrel to ship oil from Ohio to New York. Rockefeller says, hey, we'll do it for $1. He's competitive in market. It fills up the supply chain for him. He then starts to verticalize every other industry around that to create a monopoly.
Okay, so you're saying if I play that forward, what you're predicting is GCs who drive their CMP 0 will capture huge amount of market share, which will allow them to create economies of scale in the verticalized added service options that just like mean they are actually delivering at a price point that their competitors cannot match, even with sort of market pricing advantages project by project. Like, you just can't compete with the volume of work that these major ones put through. Okay, so like what's the point where that, like when do you see that, like when does that breakout happen? Because like,
look at the growth. Look at the revenue growth.
Turner is doing this. Turner is great. Turner is 1% of construction in the U.S.
They also doubled their revenue last year,
That's pretty
or
great.
their construction value. They're running as fast as possible.
Okay.
I'll take the opposite
Like,
side of this, Pat. I think the difference between construction and oil is that you don't have a standard SKU. Like an oil barrel is an oil barrel, and you can create an operation around that. You can create efficiencies, and it's gonna be the same oil barrel irrespective of where you are across the state. Maybe it changed, but I know they standardized it. With construction, obviously, it's hyper local, building to specific local requirements with locally stationed labor. This is the whole reason why you haven't had like a consolidated mega builder across the U.S. or Canada. Even in Canada, it's still very local. The third largest general contractor, is still in Quebec and Ontario, but not in every province and territory.
So a challenge on that for you would be that what a general contractor does, a general contractor is not building. So they're just providing labor as that CM. They're like, their SKU is labor. Like, hey, we
Yes,
can
we still
provide the
have
best.
relationship.
Because there's obviously the relationship piece, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting how it
but
plays out. But
they price the risk. They guarantee an outcome. I mean, like to a certain degree, guarantee an outcome to an owner, right? Like there's like a lot of value in like, hey, Mike, like I need this building and I need cost certainty within certain contractual bounds. Like I'm willing to pay for that certainty. Like,
correct.
And like there's that, and then part of how you deliver that is a sort of commoditized like
Correct.
Project management, paper pushing around everybody's actually delivering work.
I think that ties to, I know we wanted to chat a little bit about like the GMP tariff piece. That's a direct connection to that of like, what does that actually look like?
I was going to say
Go
before we
ahead.
move on to this point, there are another referencing our boy Victor Mutiri from Build Vision has a really good Substack on this, the rise of the super sub, and what he like his forewarning to GCs. I'll just read the quote here: implications for GCs are direct and unavoidable. They need a clear map of which trades in their region are expanding capability, which owners those trades are forming recurring service relationships with, and where that influence is likely to convert into construction opportunities. Differs a little bit from our conversation here on Turner and consolidation, but I do think here though that the market is changing. When I speak with some of our customers who skew more towards, let's say, SMB regional contractors, they always typically start the same way. They first start their business on relationships. They know a couple of owners. They're starting in commercial, maybe residential construction. Then I want to expand my business. So they go to public tender sites and try and bid on these lump sum design, build, bid, build type businesses. They eventually say, this is a commoditized service. My fee is going to zero, or I'm taking an unacceptable amount of risk. Let me go build relationships. And then those relationships are where they can then expand again. So they're kind of oscillating between relationships and volume. But what you're saying here, Mike, is like irrespective of your relationship, GCs will consolidate the operations across, let's say, the US or Canada, and are just going to swoop in with the low fee anyway.
Yeah. One just as on the I would say yes, and like one of the interesting just a metric or data point from the super sub position is Limbach, a a mechanical contract in the DC metro area. 77% of their total revenue is now owner direct relationships.
Yeah.
2 years ago, that was 50%.
How much of that's driven by the hyperscaler boom?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, but I just think that's fascinating that like because
But what's the
now
big difference? Is it services? Is it services or is it net new construction? Because we have an analogy in Ontario. It's Modern Agra. Modern Agra has a shitload of owner contracts on the services side, direct, but it's not necessarily as
to fix the HVAC, like the services.
so correct. That's
For the big
yeah.
systems, it makes a ton of sense, right? Like elevators, like one of the elevator companies explained to me that they try not to lose too much money on installation of elevators
Yeah,
because
service.
it's all about driving long-term service contracts.
Yeah. So this is it get the to Luigi to answer your position. It's like what is the number? What's the size of a project for an owner where they need to hire a general contractor? Where Limbach can come in and say, "Hey, we need to do a retrofit of our mechanical central utility plant." Say it's a $200 million retrofit. Limbach saying, "Hey, we'll do the whole thing. We'll hire a drywall guy to fix the drywall patches. I don't need a general contractor to do this. I'll do it." And that's that again. Like, where does that wall keep pushing up? So that size of work by that organization continues to increase. which I think that's the interesting lens.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, so question for both of you. You're a lower mid-market GC, maybe upper regional general contractor, somewhere between 50 to 100 million revenue. What do you do? Do you try and vertically integrate, spin up an electrical subcontractor, acquire someone, spin up a services arm, direct relationships with owners? How do you actually respond to this? And I'm going to call upon Andrew first because I know he's deep in thought. And
Trying
that's
to
something
derail the train. What do I do? I think
else.
first you diversify across sectors. Like, I feel like if that's not our, like, we see a lot of folks growing through that band that are heavily concentrated by sector, and like, look at the last 10 years, stuff happens, right? So first would be that diversification. 50 to 100. I try to like aggregate my purchasing power with other peers, either in the same geographic area or neighboring ones. Like, I try to non-linearly get some economy of scale on probably material purchasing. Other than that, I try to like capture labor, right? Like, the classic thing we hear is like, oh, you can get like 15 GCs to bid a project, but they all struggle to get 2 to 3 trade contractors to bid in each trade, and it's the same 2 to 3 that bid all 15 GCs, right? Like, the labor is actually like a precious and constrained resource, and so I'd try to capture that. And Mike, was it you who was telling me about someone who ended up having like every lineman in New Mexico working for them?
No, that's
No,
fascinating.
someone told me about this, where it's kind of like entrepreneur in another sector that ended up like building a business where they basically were able to get like electrical linemen who like didn't want to travel very much anymore, and it meant that they like had built this thing where they had all the most senior and experienced like electrical talent in New Mexico, and I think that's a very, very strong position to be. So like, yeah, I'd say see if you can control labor. It's harder. You have to keep people fed, and then see if you can leverage buying power. I don't know. Mike, you probably got a lot more creative ideas here.
So one thing my wife works for a wealth management company in Charleston, and they followed this book called Unreasonable Hospitality, which was written by the 11 Madison founders, the #1 restaurant in the world for a while. And I think with this push of AI, everything is going to come back to your personal relationships with your customers and how do you provide outsized value to them. Even the simplistic thing of, hey, I just fit out this building and the fire sprinkler went off. I don't know who to call. Being the person at that general contractor or the mechanical subcontractor that instantaneously answers the phone at 2 a.m. is the value prop and the differentiator for you as a $5 to $100 million contractor. So leaning into this like extreme service, leveraging tools like AI to automate workflows to get your team to operate at a higher scale is going to be the differentiator. So you're going to create this bifurcation of super general contractors, super subcontractors doing every scale, and then boutique firms, which is very similar to like the VC market we're seeing on the construction tech side of these super funds versus boutique funds. I think the same thing is going to happen in the general contracting world and the subcontracting world.
Yeah, I agree. I think the answer to everything these days is just going to be AI. You heard it.
No, it's the personal relation. I think it's the personal. Honestly, it's like how are you the person that owner wants to call every day? Like, because you're responsive, you become more of a sales motion. Like you can charge, like we have mechanical reps that charge a premium because they will instantaneously answer the phone for owners. So they don't care if the widget costs $10 or $1 million. They just know that Luigi will be there for them whenever they need it. Yeah. And there's a premium that's associated with that.
Yeah, agreed.
It's the concierge medicine of
yeah. Right.
All right, last topic here. GMP, guaranteed maximum price. There's a couple of headwinds here that I think are making GMP challenging. We can talk about a few of them, and we can talk about what people are doing either in their contracts or just in response to this procurement model altogether. I think two factors come to mind. One, tariffs on steel and copper are now roughly up 25 to 30%. Also, price volatility is back. Cost of copper is nearly up 30% in the last 6 months. Precious metals seem to be swinging pretty daily. How should people be thinking about GMP? Obviously, there's protections you can put in place within your contract. Some owners may not want to accept that risk. GMP is GMP. You can go down the redlining path and try and negotiate any way you want, either through provision or through other tools. But ultimately, an owner is not going to take all the risk. So ultimately, should GCs and subs be accepting GMP type contracts?
I know Andrew has a lot on this. I'll do one line. I think the general contractors and subcontractors that are willing to absorb the risk and just give owners a lump sum price, regardless of volatility in the materials tariff world, will be very, very successful in the next 3 to 5 years.
I actually think so too. I think they're going to get paid. I think they're going to pay it if they just take their lumps, slap a price on it, and say, we're going to play ball. I'm not going to run this contract.
Guys, you might win a lot of work. You might win a lot of work.
Will if you price it right, you're fine.
Yeah. Right. But Andrew, what if you again? Well, what if you have the magic wand that gives you the insight and be able to hedge these opportunities, and you do maybe this creates more general contractors, actually economists on staff that are hedging these because if you're building a massive hospital system that's going to take 4 years, you go out to the market, you have to get a bond, you have to go to the city and say, hey, we're going to go raise capital to build a hospital, and they raise $1 billion for this hospital for a 3-year project. They don't have any more money to spend on the hospital. It has to be a GMP or something like that. So the general contractor comes in and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to partner with this owner developer, and we're just going to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, and that's good. But all of our customers are moving away from taking particularly stipulated some design build, saying I'm going to give you exactly the hospital of your dreams for $1 billion, or even smaller, shorter term projects. Right? It just doesn't work. The risk transfer is too much. There's too much ambiguity around what's actually being delivered. You end up what are AACE, American Association of Cost Engineers, estimates for early stages? They're minus 20 plus 50%. Even stacking EBITDA margin with all the self-perform or the super GCs, you're still within that range. You can't take on all that risk. I hate it. I'm just gonna say it's muddled, and you have to negotiate the contract. Yeah, you got to provide cost certainty, but there have to be escape valves, or you have to be willing to walk away from the work. Yeah, the price certainty to a certain degree is worth something, but you can't, there are literal acts of God. How do you price COVID? How do you hedge COVID? Who would insure you against, we wildly misestimated this project? How do I take an insurance policy against the owner came in and demanded that there be twice as many offices in the space halfway through? There's just unknowns that have to be worked out, and the owner has to carry some of that. And it's going to vary by. I wish it was clean, but
somebody will be paid. Someone will be paid for taking that risk. I don't know if it's going to be the GC. They're not the best. They're not the best party to take that risk. We should actually get Justin Shepard to talk about this, because I'm sure he's trying to think about how to wrap all these risks into a product. I think GMP is not going away for a certain type of project. I think for the larger projects, I think it makes absolutely no sense. Even if you have 3 years of development with an owner, there is especially in, let's say, horizontal jobs, there's no way someone's going to make money on that job with how much risk there are. If you're touching geotechnical risk across a horizontal project, it makes no sense. You should probably just walk away, because you're going to lose your shirt. Eglinton Crosstown. It was a project that's been designed for 6 to 8 years. It went double over budget, and it's been in litigation now for 5 years. We finally have another subway line in Crosstown in Toronto, and it came almost 15 years after it started, after we broke ground. No one's going to take that risk anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like you're building in San Francisco. I mean, the larger projects, I would say, I can't speak to horizontal. I'm not as familiar with the world, but larger projects is where GMP can work well. GMP is yeah, there's a number, but there's like 6 contingencies that add up to a lot in there, and then there are all these like breakpoints and various things where it's like, all right, we're doing soil remediation, like contractor, like we don't know how far down we have to dig. Contractor bears the first part, and then after that, it's like shared, and then after a certain point, it's like all the owner or something like that, right? Like you end up like the project's big enough that it moves, like there's enough time and then there's enough money that you can negotiate and like build a risk model appropriate to the project, like sort of item by item. Like the big projects, I feel like, no, it could work well. It's the small, like quick moving stuff that seems like, are you really gonna spend 3 months going back and forth, like redlining this document to tee out like every possible risk and like decide who's gonna hold it in this particular case?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think Andrew, you should probably host like a workshop on how people should be thinking about it, because you have a very good take on what the practical ways are to make this work. Because it is tough. I think if you're a GC, you're not always set up to slog it out in red lines to do this, right? I think the average contractor is probably just going to accept the risk and take their lumps later, because they have to go to a lawyer. Well, there's like a chance this job doesn't go through. I'm going to spend $4,000 on this contract. I don't know.
The other thing that is, jumping back, a lot of owners like sort of need the GMP to be under where costs are actually going to be for the project to proceed through their internal approval gates. Like, I'm not like defending this, but the like common refrain we hear is like from owners, like, well, if we took all like if we said what the high end of the actual range, like the CFO wouldn't approve the project because they're expecting that we're going to go over 30% 2 years from now. They're expecting us to come back for more money. And so if we go and say, hey, we promise it's all in, they'll say, just like last time, just like your predecessor did, they'll assume there's more money that's going to need to go into it, and the project won't proceed. And so they need to give projects momentum. There has to be a like little bit of irrational hope, and they have to like get going within the price target. Like, even though probably everyone in the room knows that's not what it's going to be delivered at. Like, I haven't wrapped my head around this yet, and it seems bizarre to me, but we hear that really consistently, and that's typically for institutional owners. I think bond funded stuff, you're a lot more constrained. There's much more of an extremely fixed budget.
Final thoughts, Mike?
Final thoughts is you should all have an enterprise subscription to join, so that Andrew can create a competitive insurance market on top of this to underwrite GMP risk moving forward. For the low fee of $2 million a year, you can now get exposure to the insurance market that Andrew is spinning up.
Yeah, Andrew will hop in your Andrew will hop in your red lines and personally.
Yeah, that's dangerous. It's not a good idea.
And take no liability, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's the end of Construction Tech Podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. We're going to sign off.